It's a good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy. Back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew a version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us, my quest to brew the magic world. As always, that link for that deck list is going to be down in the description for you below, as well as I really appreciate if you interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider joining the memberships for the channel. Check out the links in the description. I'd really appreciate it. But today, I took a look here at the tail end of Bloomborough content, at the new bear that we got in the Bloomborough commander decks and some of the bears we got over the last few sets. And I felt like it was finally time to go back and actually brew Ayula, Queen Among Bears. I actually don't think I've done Ayula for the channel, so I thought it was time to do it, have fun, and try it with the current cards we have. Ayula is a 2-mana 2/2 legendary bear. It says whenever the bear comes in under our control, we could choose one, put 2 counters on a target bear. Not the bear that came in, any bear that we want. Or target bear we control fights target creature you don't control. Ayula has a really fun ability, right? Every time a bear comes in, you get to make a bear bigger or have a bear fight, which is nice because you kind of get some baked-in removal, right, for the creatures. This also helps because you can spread counters around, which, you know, I feel like we continue to just talk more and more about all the counter support that's been coming out recently and what it can do. And we're going to look at what we can do in mono green even here for counter support. And then we're going to do what green does best, which is just get in the paint, get into combat, do the combat thing. And this deck does a very good job at that as well. But let's get into our bears. Let's get into our friends. The best part about this deck, I think, is that things like Bear Cub, your quintessential bear, 2/2 for 2, every one of them matters. They all trigger Ayula, they all have a chance to get bigger, and they all have that bear typing, meaning they can get bigger with other abilities. So even just a mere 2/2 Bear Cub is going to be viable in this deck and do a very good thing. Drover Grizzly from Outlaws Third Junction feels good here. Whenever it attacks while saddled, creatures we control get trampled on a turn, and we can saddle it for 1 total power. This is good because not every bear has trample on it, right? And we do have some cards that'll give creatures with counters on the trample, or will give all creatures trample. But it's good to have another one of these abilities to have around. The other nice part is for just 3 mana now, we're getting a 4/2, which is great stats on it for that cost. And Ayula can make it right into a 6/4, right, if we want to do it that way. Evercoat Ursine is the new one from the Bloomborough Commander deck, and I like this one a ton. A 5 mana 6/5 with double Hideaway 3, so when it comes in, we're going to look at the top 3, exile 1 face down, and then put the rest on the bottom in a random order and do it again. And then anytime Evercoat Ursine deals combat damage to a player, we can pick one of the ones exiled with it and play it without paying its mana cost. So a great ability, a great body, and it already having trample, meaning that it should be able to get in for good damage. And I think Evercoat Ursine's a great body to start fighting with our opponent's creatures. Forest Bear, another 2/2 for 2. This is the Mystery Booster 2 printing, but Forest Bear, another classic 2/2 bear. Probably my favorite bear of all time, and Goreclaw Cherub Kelsizma there in the middle, a 4 mana 4/3 that allows creatures with power 4 or greater to cost 2 less to cast. This isn't going to happen a ton. A lot of our bears are smaller, but it's the bottom ability that we really care about. Whenever Goreclaw Cherub Kelsizma attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and trample till end of turn. Basically just bringing all of our bears up a little bit, giving them trample, and allowing us to get in a little bit harder. Metallic Mimic is one of our honorary bears for this deck, coming in and making it any type we choose, and every other bear is going to come in with a +1/+1 counter on it. This is a great ability. It's not the best honorary bear in the deck. I feel like you know what I'm going to mention here in a slide or two. But hey, that's more counters that are going on every bear, you know, in case we choose to put Ayula's counters on herself or spread them elsewhere. You know, we know all of our bears are coming in. Well, our best honorary bear is the best honorary creature to have any type, and that's Roaming Throne. Roaming Throne's going to do a lot in the deck, doubling up Ayula's ability whenever bears come in, but also just doubling up any other triggered ability of all the bears that we control. Roaming Throne is also a bear as soon as it comes in, so it'll have all the benefits that the rest of our bears do as well, but it's just a nice body that's going to double up all those triggers. Rampaging Yaoguai from the Fallout Commander set there is a card that I think really works here. It's an X triple green for a 2/2, which may seem kind of high costed until you read its effect. So it comes in with that many +1/+1 counters on it, but when it comes in, you destroy any number of target artifacts or enchantments with totem mana value X or less. What this hopes to do is come in and knock out all your opponent's mana rocks or knock out their cheap artifact creatures. Remember, it's total, so if your opponent has a bunch of like artifact tokens, you can just knock out a bunch of them. And it's still a 2/2 that's going to come in with more counters most of the time, right? Ayula's probably going to put those counters that she gives off her ability elsewhere, but Yaguai's just going to turn into a really good, powerful attacker that has a great ETB ability. We have Owlbear, a 5-mana 4/4 that draws us a card when it comes in. Again, 4/4 body's pretty good. It'll get reduced with Goreclaw, right? And it's just not a bad body on its own. Is it the best bear in the deck? No, not by any means. But I think the card draw is nice, and already having a better body means it's a great fight target as well if we're looking for those. We're playing our other Goreclaw card, Sirakan Goreclaw, a 6-mana, 6/5 bear, human bear. It says trample, other creatures have trample, and then whenever another non-token creature comes in, it gets +1/+1 counter on haste. If you don't know, Sirakan Goreclaw is one of my favorite commanders. I have a deck for it over on the channel, but Sirakan Goreclaw feels great here because now you're giving all your bears haste when they come in and a counter. And again, Sirakan Goreclaw is another great fighting body for Ayula when bears come in. Werebear's kind of fun, a 2-mana 1/1 with that taps for a green. And as long as there's 7 more cards in your graveyard, it becomes a base 4/4. Werebear's just great because, hey, it's a mana dork and it's a bear. So it's going to count for Ayula's ability, and that feels really good. And then one of my favorite bears in the deck from Baldur's Gate, Wilson Refined Grizzly. A 2-mana 2/2 bear that can't be countered. Vigilance, Reach, Trample, and Ward 2 feels like pretty great for 2 mana when you look at some of the other bears, right, that have existed for 2 mana. Great attacker, having Vigilance and Trample, right? Great protection in the Ward, a great fighter, right? Because of its ability to kind of fight something and maybe attack that same turn, or its ability to attack and block with Vigilance. I like Wilson a ton, and I think it fits for what we're trying to do. But we're not just making bears through creatures. We have some ways through other things, especially enchantments, to make bears. We have Ayula's Influence. We could pitch a land to make a 2/2 bear. That's nice if we really get flooded out with lands and we really don't need more. Bearscape for 2 mana. We can remove 2 cards from our graveyard and put a bear into play. That's pretty cool because we can do it again. At all 3 of these, we can do it instant speed. Allowing us to get bears if needed at a particular time. And then Words of Wilding's kind of interesting. We could pay 1, and the next time we would draw a card, we can instead put a bear token into play, which is pretty cool because, if we have abilities that draw us cards when things come in, or, let's say we have a card that when we deal damage to a player, we draw a card, and we really don't want the card at the moment, well, we can just get more bears and get more Ayula triggers and more value on the board. We talked about counters mattering, and there's a lot of ways to do that in this deck, right? We're spreading counters around. So things like Inspiring Call can be pretty cool to draw a card for each creature we control with a counter on it and give all of them indestructible. Way to get around a board wipe and get some card advantage. Or this can allow us to take a big attack or a big block and protect ourselves for it. The probably reason we're talking about all this counter support in this set is Innkeeper's Talent, right? Start every combat, you're putting a counter on a creature. Level 2 gives all permanents with counters on the Ward 1. And then level 3 gives us that Branching Evolution, Doubling Season style effect to start doubling up counters on permanents or players when we put them on. I love Innkeeper's Talent. It's well worth the mana. Just for that 3rd mana alone to get it up to level 2, you're going to start really protecting your board from single target things sometimes. And then Stocking the Pantry just seems fun. Whenever you put one or more counters on a creature, put a counter on Stocking the Pantry, and you can remove 2 counters from Stocking the Pantry to draw a card. It seems helpful if we're having multiple bears come in every turn, because then we can start drawing things off Stocking the Pantry and just trying to get extra cards to our hand to be better prepared, for any situations we might run into. Well, we're a green deck, and that means we're going to get stuck in, right? I think that's pretty obvious. And I think there's a lot of ways to do it. But there's a couple of really fun ways to do it, right? We have Nissa Send Animus. Since we're playing mostly basic forests for our lands, that means that her -7 to give +1/+1 for each forest you control and trample to all of our creatures is going to be a big swing for our opponents to deal with. The other thing I like about Nissa is her middle ability can take out a pesky artifact or enchantment if need be. Overwhelming Stampede, a green classic. Creatures getting +X and trampled till the turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures we control. Big alpha strike. It can really lead to some fun. Season of Gathering is a card that I've talked about in a couple other decks, and I still think it works really well in green decks for really, in this deck, 3 different reasons, and that's all the different modes. On the top end of the paw scale, you can draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, drawing you a ton of cards if you want to do that. The middle one lets you choose artifact or enchantment and just destroy all permanents of that type. What I like about that is we're not playing a ton of artifacts. We're playing more enchantments than artifacts, but we're not playing a ton of artifacts, meaning that we can just choose artifact and nuke every artifact on the battlefield, which is most likely going to hurt our opponents more than us. And there probably could be scenarios where we want to pick enchantments as well. Maybe our opponents have better enchantments than we do, and we're willing to give up our 1 or 2 enchantments to nuke the board of them and get them rid of them. But we could also just do the 1 paw 5 times, which is put a counter on our creature, it gets vigilance and trample till end of turn. A great way to do it. Kind of small alpha strike, but vigilance and trample means they can attack and still block. And the counter does help, right, with them getting a little bit bigger and a little bit harder to deal with. I love the idea of doing the middle paw and doing 3 of the top 2 for 6 mana, nuking all of our opponent's artifacts and then getting some buffs and just getting in for a big attack. Beastmaster Ascension just feels right. It's a great green finisher in a lot of decks, giving all creatures +5/+5 as long as 7 creatures have attacked while it's been out. Every time a creature attacks, you put a counter on it, and at 7 you get that buff. This mixed with any of our trample enablers is just going to lead to a bad time for our opponents. And one of the best of those trample enablers, other than a couple of the creatures we already looked at, was Garruk's Uprising. Giving all creatures trample, and then whenever a bigger creature, power 4 greater, comes in, we get to draw a card. But at the end of the day, this is trample for all of our creatures, so that when we get into combat, we're dealing good damage. And then on natural growth, doubling the power and toughness of each creature we control at each combat means we get to attack and block really effectively, because then even our 2/2s at minimum are 4/4s, right? If they don't have counters on them or anything like that. And they become good blockers just like they're good attackers. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at it, and that means that in testing, we're going to hope to learn a lot of things. The first thing I think we're going to need to learn is how efficient is the buffs in the deck. Is Ayula putting counters on our bears enough? Do we need something like Patrick Banner or Cage Sun, these big +1/+1 buffs to all of our creatures? The difference, I think the reason why I didn't consider Patchwork or Cage Sun right away is because I don't know that we need the artifact-based mana ramp. I think we have enough of it in just some of our normal green ramp, our land ramp and things like that. Cage Sun, I think, is a great option because it doubles up the amount that your forest tap for. Patrick Banner just gives a flat 1/1 to every bear. I think they're both great cards. It would just come down to how often are you getting all your lands? How consistently are you getting them well enough? And could that +1/+1 bonus be worth it? And if it is, then I think it's worth thinking about. The other card here is Ram Through. Ram Through is a card I really like because Ram Through allows you to take a creature you control, deal damage to another creature equal to its power, and then if the creature has trampled, then you get to do the excess damage to that creature's controller. This could create scenarios if you're a really big bear out. Hit through a 1/1, deal a bunch of damage out of nowhere. This is an instant speed thing, right? So that could be pretty helpful. Again, the fact that Ayula fights, right, on every berry TB does eliminate the needs a little bit for Ram Through, but I think Ram Through is still a really good spell for any deck that's having big creatures around. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into our first playtest. Keeping a 3-lander with Werebear for that little bit of mana ramp. Sylvan Anthem, giving all green creatures +1/+1. And then whenever a green creature comes in, we scry one. Hardened Scales to get more counters on things. And Stampede there for a little bit of a finisher. So I like this, right? We're kind of trending towards a good step here. So turn 1, get that forest down. Turn 2, I still think we play Ayula here before we play Werebear. Just because then Werebear could trigger Ayula, right? And help us out. So we'll go into turn 3. I think it's what? Hardened Scales and then Werebear? Right? And now the question becomes, who do I put the counters on? Do I put them on Ayula or do I put them on the Werebear, right? Because I could put on the Werebear here, and now the Werebear becomes a 4/4, and it's harder for our opponents to deal with. I know that it's a mana dork, but I just feel like it being a 1/1 could be a problem. Or we get the party started with Ayula, making it a 5/5, and now it being a better fight threat. I think for purposes of this, let's go on to Ayula. We're getting 2+1 from Hardened Scales, and now next turn, Werebear can help us tap for some mana. So we've got 5 mana here. Ronos' Monument says that green creature spells we cast cost 1 less to cast. So there's no fancy way to get, in fact, there are no bears we could play this turn. Titania's Command can make us some bears, but it is 6 mana, so we're just 1 mana off of that. I like the idea of something like maybe Ronus's Monument plus Sylvan Anthem, just as a way to get a little bit more of a buff to Ayula. We could also conversely go with Beastmaster Ascension into Sylvan Anthem and get a counter on Beastmaster this turn. I think there's a couple ways we could approach this. I like that we're on the mana for Overwhelming Stampede. We just need to keep growing the board. I think the Sylvan Anthem's for sure the option. It's just which do I prefer, Beastmaster Ascension or Monument. My gut says Monument could be good in case we draw another creature and potentially play 2 things again. And it gives us a little buff when we cast those creature spells. Ayula's a 6/6. I'm sure we have a great attack on turn 4 where we can get in. Remember, we tapped that Werebear for mana. So, can't use that here. Turn 5, we do get a creature in Balduvian Bears, just a 2/2 for 2. So I like that there. On cast, we'll give Ayula +2/+2 and trample till end of turn. And then when Balduvian Bears comes in, I think I'll just give it the counters. Ayula's already a 5/5, 6/6, 8/8 with trample till end of turn. So we got a great attack there. Got 3 mana left over. I think I'll slam that Beastmaster Ascension down now. Move to combat, attack with Ayula, get that counter onto Beastmaster Ascension. I just realized we missed the Scry, right, when we had that come in. And we see Defiler Vigor. Defiler Vigor is a great creature because when green permanents come in, it gives us access to +1/+1 counters across the whole board. I'm going to keep that on top because it feels like a great thing to play. I'm also now realizing that Balduvian Bears would have only been 1 mana, so we could have actually given that buff to Werebear and had it attack, but that's okay. I don't think it would have changed our thoughts this turn too much. I think we'll just work in it next turn where we can have some more fun. So here on turn 6, we'll pay the 4 here for Defiler Vigor. Now, Defiler Vigor is not a bear, so it's not going to trigger Ayula, but we will still trigger Ronus's Monument. And I think I'll give that Werebear the buff this turn, just so that way we can have it attack and start growing the Beastmaster Ascension more. It's going to come in, so we get to scry 1. We see an Emerald Medallion. This would help reduce the Defiler, or the cost of that Titania's Command, but I think I really want to get my way into another creature. So I'll move to combat, attack with these 3. Get a couple more counters here on Beastmaster Ascension. Again, we're working our way up. And then as soon as we can take advantage of Defiler of Vigor to play a permanent, we could start spreading counters all over the place and becoming even more of a threat. The nice thing is we do have this Overwhelming Stampede here as an option as we get more into our turns. Turn 7 is a Forest, which is a slight bummer, but we could Titania's Command. So by this we can search our library for some lands, bring them in tap, make 2/2 bears, or put 2 counters on each creature we control. I like the idea of the bear tokens, right? Because then that can spread counters to other bears, right? There is a world where we could just put 2 bears and put 2 counters and everything. All the bears would come in, right, with those 2 counters because you do the modes in order, right? And then Ayula's 2 triggers would go off, allowing us to place more. That doesn't seem like a bad idea. Then we'd be able to get a big attack here, right, with Beastmaster Ascension. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to play that. We're going to make 2/2/2 bears. And then put 2 counters on everything. Now Ayula's going to go off. And if there's anything I can functionally fight on turn 7 that isn't bad, that isn't tough for me, I would happily do it, right? Hit some creatures, do that. Otherwise, I think I might just put another counter or 2 on Werebear. And I think I'd probably oh my gosh, I forgot the hardened scales. So these would actually be, they get put on at the same time. So this would be 3 apiece for these. And then Werebear would actually get another Right, 3. I get 2 scries with Sylvan Anthem. I think I'm good with the land. I'll put it on bottom. I'm good with the land. I'll put it on bottom. Take a massive attack here. I mean, Beast Bash Ascension is going to go up to 8, right? So we have it turned on online. This has trample, and the other are just going to be people, right? They're going to have to block them. The Ronus' Monument's only on creature cast, so neither of these coming in are going to trigger the Ronus Monument. But hey, you have a 9/9 with trample, and you have a 10/10, a 7/7. Sorry, the Werebear did tap for that last mana, so only 3 attackers, but still big attack, right? Looks good. We'll go one more turn. That I think is probably just going to be Overwhelming Stampede. Jeez, 3 forests in a row off the top. I think this is just, right, this is just Overwhelming Stampede. Our highest is 10. This gives everything plus 10 in trample, and you just pick 2 of them at each person, and that's right, probably going to be pretty darn close to game. So let's get into playtest number 2, keeping a 4-lander with Goreclaw, that Ursine, and Nissa, who shakes the world. A 5-mana planeswalker that allows forests to tap for 2 mana instead of 1 can be very useful in allowing us to ramp our mana. I like this Goreclaw because that means that we can start getting trample right to our whole board as well. So turn 1, we see that World's a Wilding. That's pretty cool. It means we could potentially get that started. Turn 2, we see Lumra, one of our other big bears from the set that I can't believe I didn't mention in the PowerPoint. Star where stars the number of lands we control. When it comes in, you mill 4 and bring all lands back. Lumra's a great big body. Get Ayula down here this turn. Turn 3, I guess we could play the Wilding. We really don't have much to do this turn. Even if I don't play the Wilding, right, there's no other bears I could play. So I think I just play the Wilding. We'll untap. I mean, we do have the option to Wilding instead of drawing, but I don't see the point. Jeez, more Nissas. I think I want to get Goreclaw down here, and I want to put 2 counters on Ayula. There's our other Nissa, right? The one that has the big Alpha Strike. So we got some big stuff in our hand. We just need to get there. Goreclaw's going to start reducing the cost of... Lumra's going to go down to a 4 mana since we have 4 lands. Lumra's a 4/4 in our hand. And then Ursine is a 3 mana bear right now. So we're going to be able to play more things. You know what I mean? We'll go to our next turn, and I think we do want to draw. If I play Ronus' Monument... Ursine would just be 2 mana. Same thing with Lumra. They'd both just be 2 mana. So I think I played the Ronus' Monument, right? 2 reduction here. 1 reduction from the Ronus' Monument. I apologize. Lumra would be down to 3. Ursine is down to 2. And I think I'd just play the Ursine here. We'll think about if we want to fight or not. But Ronus' Monument, I just hop up a... We hop up Goreclaw, put the counters on Ayula to get her a little bit bigger, and these will be our 2 attackers. But let's Hideaway 3. All 3 great cards. I like Inspiring Call for a little bit of card draw. So that'll be our first of the Hideaway cards. And then our second one, we see Masked Vandal, which is a bear. Druid's Familiar, which is a bear that comes in Soul Bonds. And then Owlbear Cub. Interesting. Only nice part about Druid's Familiar is it comes in, bonds with a creature that gives them both +2/+2. Vandal can come in, get rid of something, and whenever Owlbear attacks player controls 8 or more lands, we can look at the top 8 and bring something in. I think the question there is probably Owlbear Cub, but... Alright, we go to combat, have Goreclaw and Ayula both attack. Goreclaw becomes a 5/4, Ayula becomes a 7/7 because of Goreclaw's ability to, right, get in there, get some damage in there. I like it, and we'll move to our next turn. I think we'll probably draw the card. Okay, that's good. So Evercoat has that happen when it attacks. So Lumra is 1, 2, 3, just 3 mana. So there is a world where we could Nissa and Lumra to get access to more mana, right, and the Lumra. We could also play a fully funded Nissa, send an Animus, but I think I kind of like that. We put down the Nissa, which is 5 mana. We untap one of them with her +1, making it into a 3/3 elemental. And then now, right? Remember that forest tap for 2, so we could play that Lumra. Lumra comes in, mills 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we managed to hit literally all lands. So they're all going to come back to the battlefield tapped. So now Lumra came in huge. Lumra came in as a 9, 10/10. Now for Ayula's ability, again, if I need to get rid of something by fighting, I would probably do Lumra's ability first anyway, just to see what lands I hit, and then maybe have it fight something, right? Otherwise, I guess I could put the counters in Gore Claw, but in all reality, I'd kind of rather see if I could fight. But again, let's say for the purpose of this, we don't have anything to fight, right, with that. We'll move to combat. I would attack with these 3. They're all going to get the buff from Gore Claw. Gore Claw already got the buff from, I believe, Ronus's Monument this turn is what I said. So big hits, and all 3 of them are probably going to hit. And what I would probably do is just Inspiring Call 1, 2, 3 creatures with counters on them, and then that's going to, right, hopefully load us up. And it did. 1, 2. So 8 forests on board, 9 forests on board, meaning 18 mana plus just 1 from the reef. So we should be able to do Animus plus Season. I mean, this game's probably over the next turn unless anybody can deal with Nissa. And even if they deal with Nissa, we just put down this one and everything gets, what, +8, +9, +9. You know, this is basically where the board state's going to end. But let me know, what do you think of Ayula down in the comment section below? Have you played Ayula? Have you thought about it? If you've come to this video because you're looking at building Ayula, I'd love to hear what you think down in the comment section below. Chat with me. I'd love to have a chat with you down there. And I catch you guys next time.